Donald Trump's big beautiful bill has passed through the Senate with the casting vote of Vice President J.D. Vance. He had to come down and vote because 3 Republicans voted against it, so that put the count at 50-50. But not everyone was so pleased. Just before the legislation got through, Trump's former best friend, Elon Musk, went on another social media tirade, posting that every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame, and they will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth. The US president then threatened to deport Elon Musk.
He's upset that he's losing his EV mandate, and he's very upset about things, but he could lose a lot more than that. I can tell you right now. Hey, Elon can lose a lot more than that. We might have to put DOGE on Elon. You know what DOGE is? DOGE is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon.
Oh, it's nothing if not entertaining. With me now is Senior Fellow and Chief Economist at the IPA, Adam Creighton. Adam, it's the greatest reality show of all time, really, watching this go on between these two men, from how the mighty have fallen, I suppose. But to Musk's point about the big spending in this bill, there is huge spending in this bill. They have increased the debt ceiling. It also comes with tax cuts, etc. And I suppose there would be a lot of people in the Republican Party thinking, well, if Donald Trump is not interested in cleaning up the books and DOGE wasn't as effective as many people thought it would be, then who on earth is going to do it?
Well, certainly. Look, I'm very sympathetic to Elon on this issue. The fundamental question is this bill, soon to be law, has not changed the fundamental trajectory of the US budget. I mean, the basic fact is the US government spends about $7 trillion a year, and it only raises $5 trillion or so in taxes, and that is $2 trillion deficit. It is absolutely enormous and totally unsustainable. And basically, this has been going on pretty much since the COVID pandemic. And basically, US presidents hope that the financial crisis is going to happen on the next president's watch, and that is what Donald Trump is hoping. And it's a big gamble because, as you point out, debt is extremely high in the US. I mean, basically, it makes the Victorian government look like some sort of paragon of fiscal rectitude by comparison. It's well over 100% of GDP. Now, of course, it's a reserve currency, so it gets a very long leash from financial markets, but it's a real problem. And I sympathise with Elon. I mean, he found a couple of $100 billion of savings and they couldn't even do that. So I understand his anger. Plus, it was great personal financial cost to him. The share price of Tesla fell greatly. It cost him a lot of money. So I understand why he's angry. And
Elon obviously feels personally aggrieved by all of this, to the point, as I said before, he's saying that if it's the last thing he does on earth, it'll be to stop these Republicans who voted for it from winning their primaries. That's pretty extraordinary intervention.
No, it's an extraordinary intervention. I would say the most serious so far, and would certainly worry a lot of Republican backbenchers because there's no preferential voting system in the US. So if he does launch a new party, it could well split the Republican vote and be absolutely chaos for them at the next election, which is next year for the Congress. So that's a very serious threat. And I'm actually shocked he did it because, I mean, he's making powerful enemies. Of course, he's a powerful man himself, but I don't know why he wants to do that. I mean, to his credit, he's obviously very principled and doesn't really care much about his share price or his wealth because he stands to lose a lot more of that, I would say, by going down this path.
He's not mucking around. Meanwhile, Trump's gotten inventive on his immigration policy. He's unveiled this new migrant detention centre in Florida, which is surrounded by alligators and pythons, which is meant to deter people from escaping. Here he was touring this so-called alligator Alcatraz.
Note that this is air-conditioned facility, so if any of the news claims are keeping them out in the hot, humid South Florida, that is wrong. It's probably 62 degrees here, to be honest.
Hey, Biden wanted me in here, okay? He wanted me. It didn't work out that way, but he wanted me in here.
I love the idea, to be honest. I mean, it's probably cheaper than paying security to look after the perimeter.
Yeah, look, it's very Trump, this. I mean, I don't think it hurts him. His fans love this sort of thing. He loves this sort of thing. It's, made for TV, of course, which, of course, is his specialty. Look, he promised in coming into office that he would crack down on the illegal immigration, and that's what he's doing. Of course, it's controversial, but we always criticise politicians for not living up to their words, but he is doing that on this issue. So, look, it's unusual, it's unorthodox, but it also does send a powerful signal to would-be immigrants not to come. And I think, much of the benefit from this policy is probably that. This is going to ricochet all around the world. And, it will probably change the minds of some people who are otherwise thinking of coming. Because remember, when Biden came in 2021, there was a huge influx of people into the US, and that's because of perception. And perception really matters. And I think Trump is right to do things like this.
I want to see if they can get one going up in Queensland. How good would that be? David Crisafulli, get on top of it. Jeff Chambers in the Oz today exposed that Australia's top 17 public service boffins have all received pay bumps with a combined total value of up to $16.3 million. Treasury boss Jenny Wilkinson now joins the $1 million club along with Australia's most senior bureaucrat, Stephen Kennedy. I know that if you want serious people to do these jobs, you do have to pay them well. But when you compare what the heads of these departments get versus what the ministers who are controlling the departments get, I mean, it is a big difference.
Look, it certainly is. I think it's just outrageous, the levels of these pay, and I think it brings great shame to Australia, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the head of the UK Treasury, for instance, which you could argue is a much harder job than being the head of our Treasury, that the pay is something like £180,000 a year. So that's 360,000 Australian dollars. So it's vastly lower. We really stand out globally on these metrics, and it's embarrassing. You could halve all of these salaries and you would get exactly the same sorts of people in the jobs. So, this argument about, we pay $1 million a year and we get great talent. Well, look at the last 10 years of policy making in Australia. I mean, do you think the NDIS is great policy? Well, that's the product of these so-called $1 million salaries. It's very embarrassing, and, it just makes Australians hate the government. I mean, basically, it's not good for social cohesion. It's not good for this country. And, it should be $700,000, $600,000, not $1 million. You can live very well in Canberra on $600,000, I think.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm with you on that. Adam Creighton, thank you so much for joining me as always.